Hello and welcome to Is This England, a show where we talk about old England games and ask just how England was this.
It's part three of the Steve McClaren Odyssey, and things have gone from bad to worse for the Three Lions. What can McClaren do to get England back on track for Euro 2008 qualification?
You may be a stranger, that's what time can do. Baby, you mean everything to me.
We're back once again with the Renegade Master.
That just led into that so easily, that didn't it?
Steve McClaren is neither a renegade nor a master. Back once again with the absolute toe in the line shit show.
The master of the Steve McClaren Hare Island.
True.
That's what he's the master of. The master of apparently a very good coach.
Yes.
That's what they all say. The very good coach is Steve.
We're keen to stress that throughout this Odyssey. Before we push on a little recap as to where we've been so far, if you've not been with us on the journey.
Previously on
Yeah,
McClaren.
I love that. The big man's been appointed to the role of England manager ahead of the likes of Sam Allardyce, Alan Kirbishley, Louis Scolari, and others. He zipped kind of through a very quick honeymoon stage where we was beating everybody 4-0. Crouchy and Defoe was banging them in. And that kind of subsided very quickly. And yeah, at this point, he's already facing major questions about his future. We left precisely the Three Lions at the halfway point in qualifying Group E for Euro 2008 after they'd just about conquered the almighty Andorra. I say just about. It was a crucial 4-0 away win following a string of poor results, some of those friendlies, some of those qualification, but with fourth place in the table for qualifying halfway through in Group E. Thoughts so far, Nick?
Not gone well.
It's not gone well.
I think we can all look at his performance review of could do better.
Yeah.
I think we kind of invented the good stuff, bad stuff thing for Steve McClaren there. He's got a lot in the bad stuff so far. There was some good at the start, but
Yeah.
it's kind of a lot of his decisions aren't panning out. Like he made kind of a few calls and player selections and formation changes as well. Maybe sticking with some players too much, some players too little, playing weird formations, and just it's not really worked out for Steve. That, like you said, that honeymoon period is very much over. England fans were so angry at him during one of the away games. I think it was in Andorra, I want to say.
Yeah.
They were fuming at him and the entire team, really. And it wasn't only aimed at McClaren, it was just, I hate these players. It's the first time I really remember seeing England fans going, can't stand these players. They're awful. I don't want them in the team anymore. Which we were very much used to after this for quite a long time.
Yeah. I think I've made a mistake. Yeah, I did make a mistake. It was a 3-0 win, not a 4-0 win versus Andorra, where we left
We've already taken that away from him.
because it was the David Nugent one. Yeah, he's experimented with all manner of strikers, different formations, kind of. But the fans really aren't happy. Is there any way? Are there any big backtracking decisions that Steve McClaren could make that could get the fans on side once again? Nick, I'll hand it over to you.
I think there's one, isn't there? There's one break glass in case of incredibly angry fans and fires outside of my hotel probably at night and all sorts. And it kind of comes with why has he done that? Oh, but the reason he's done this is because new Wembley's around the corner. This is the era of England haven't got a home ground and have to go around the country, play all these different places, and which I think we've said lots of times we think is a really good idea. And I think they're starting to do that a little bit more now. But there's games at Old Trafford and throughout the summer in other places too.
Molyneux as well.
Yeah, there was Molyneux obviously for the where it was just, that wasn't a good one, was it at all? Just so many angry people from Wolverhampton furious at England.
Well, to mark the opening of the new Wembley, there's a game against Brazil,
Mm.
and maybe another chance to experiment more by looking into the past. That's right. Steve McClaren is experimenting by looking into the past by bringing David Beckham back into the England fold for that game. Wow. Wow, this was
Yeah.
his was yeah, well, so background history on that. Beckham's decision to step aside from being England captain was his own, but McClaren made the decision to not include him in the squad as a player when he would have been happy to carry on, but just not be captain.
Yeah, yeah, and I think we touched on it last time about whether it was a good idea or a bad idea. I think we looked more into it now of like, yeah, what he'd have been really useful actually to have around. But I think we're going to go into it now. How useful he actually would have been when you look at what happened to him at the start of the season for club. Maybe one bleeds into the other slightly, and maybe the fact that he was dropped by England entirely and thought his England career was over kind of made him think maybe I'm actually not a incredibly top level footballer anymore, and maybe that made some of his decisions for him.
So he was plying his trade at Real Madrid at the time, managed by former future England manager Fabio Capello. Well, former at the time of recording, future at the time of what we're talking about.
We're looking into the past as well here, much as Steve did.
Time is just a absolute prism.
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't think that's the right word. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But Beckham was brought in as a Galactico, a move from Manchester United a few years earlier with sort of incredible marketing potential as well as a really, really strong footballing pedigree. But Fabio Capello didn't really take to that. And yeah, I think Beckham was never the main guy there, which is fair enough because look at the players around him. But he kind of became dispensable or dispendable. What's the word? What's the word when you're not needed?
expendable.
Expendable. That's it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they could be dispensed with at this point, couldn't he, Beckham? Because I think all that Galactico era, it's seen as like, oh, it's kind of like looked. I don't know if it's looked back on well or not. Maybe to like the general public of, I remember that team. Weren't they really interesting?
Yeah.
But actually, by the time that the real Galacticos come in, where they would have to buy one of the world's best players every single year just to keep like the fans happy, basically, because they'd done it for so long and it had worked because they'd bought in Figo, Zidane, Beckham was the next one, really. And by doing that, they'd kind of also jettisoned some of their players that they liked more as well. I mean, there was Flavio Conceição, I think, went. I think his name was, and Makalele, kind of the famous one that went in the wake of David Beckham arriving.
Yeah.
And I think there's quite a famous line from Zinedine Zidane saying something about essentially they've taken the engine out of the car and just painted it gold.
Exactly.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, not really what they needed at that point because Makalele did so much good for them. And where we find Real Madrid now is they've appointed Fabio Capello to kind of get over this player power and this mindset of we've got to bring in, one of these great players every year and actually just make a team again that can compete because they didn't actually win a lot under this pure Galacticos era,
No.
especially when Beckham's there. To this point, as we speak in the timeline, I think they've maybe won one Super Cup, maybe that's it.
Oh, there's a it's funny you kind of mentioned you're not sure how to look back on. 3 hours ago, at time of recording, there was a push notification come through on my phone from The Athletic, an opinion piece by Michael Cox called "Real Madrid's Changing Culture." 2 bullet points there. Arguably have no Galacticos, sorry, makes them more likable is the second one. So there you go.
Right,
Not a likable strategy.
right. Thanks, Coxie, for that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just one of those people that hates any kind of like look back and you just buy all the best players, which is like mega fun, works on Football Manager, but the people like that are just so into the depths of it, and like the Jonathan Wilsons of like, oh, what Barcelona actually do is they bring all their players through the youth team, and it's like they're more than a club. It's like, no, that's actually not what happens at all anymore, is it? Especially with Barcelona, you probably look at Real Madrid are the closer to a non-Galacticos than Barcelona are these days because they somehow find all this money. Not saying Real Madrid don't do it too, but they sell off like a third of their TV rights for the rest of their existence, and that's how
Yeah.
they buy Lewandowski, for example, and
So
maybe buy
mad.
Messi back.
So mad. But yeah, when Beckham had played for Madrid, he wasn't exactly contributing to some good results. So they lost 7 out of the 9 matches in which Beckham started before things started to really go south. So we left England on the 28th of March 2007 in the game against Andorra. Just a couple of months earlier, in January of 2007, David Beckham and Real Madrid had failed to come to terms on a new contract, and Beckham announced he'd be moving to LA Galaxy at the end of the season. Capello wasn't happy, shock, that Beckham had announced his own departure from the club and said he would never play for Real Madrid again. Roman Calderon, then president of Real Madrid, said Beckham was going to LA to be half a film star, and no other team wanted Beckham anyway, except for LA Galaxy. Sorry, I was good at
L Galaxy.
Yeah, L Galaxy. So yeah, a strange move. They definitely got my money for a shirt. LA Galaxy did when Beckham moved there. So maybe the plan worked brilliantly in the end. A bit soon, but God, he's just spiraling, sort of, isn't he? Really.
Think so, yeah. I think, as we said, being left out by McClaren was probably a bit of a shock to him because he thought, all right, maybe I shouldn't be the face of English football anymore. People like Wayne Rooney coming through and, other players around him, but could still play a role. And maybe seeing that actually I'm not good enough for England anymore. I'm not really putting up trees at Real Madrid, and had, sporadically through his time. I don't think it was just David Beckham that was the problem. They recently lost. I think Zidane had retired the previous season as well, and he had been really bad for Real Madrid in that final year he'd been there. And a lot of the other players had gone too, so he probably thought, this is my generation leaving. I'm not in the team anymore. I don't know. I don't quite agree that no football team wanted David Beckham. I mean, we remember Aston Villa apparently were very keen. If the fake shake or whatever it was meant to be believed.
That's true. Yeah.
But yeah, it was seen as like, all right, I've got to move somewhere else. And he kind of pioneered going to the MLS. That, like, people in football podcasts and in chat do talk about, the MLS now as a thing, when it was literally no one spoke about American, like, soccer, as they call it, before David Beckham went there. And it was just seen as like, what a joke, he's going there.
Yeah. It's obviously a much more competitive sort of league these days, and I mean, there's probably a billion think pieces about the impact Beckham had, but overall, looking back, I can say probably net positive for everything, really.
Yeah.
A nice counterpoint to Beckham at this time was a real sort of the man who the Real Madrid team should have been absolutely built around. Maybe not at this point, but when they were both brought in, there's no doubt who's the biggest star. We're talking the original Ronaldo, who is exiled from the team by Capello, alongside Beckham. Beckham kind of focuses on where he's going next and how he can sort of get himself back on track and playing. Ronaldo's kind of more happy to see out his contract and just turn up for training when he fancies it. And, we've seen that story a few times before, haven't we?
Especially with Brazilians, who've kind of like gone past what they think is their useful period and need. I mean, you'd hear stories of Ronaldinho kind of coming into physio rooms after being out the entire night before and like lying down for a massage and just falling asleep instantly.
Love that. God, that's so cool.
But like you say, it's a great contrast, isn't it? Of the incredible player that the original Ronaldo was, just being one of the most talented players ever and one of the greatest players ever, even though like that period of his career where he could have been that was so short, and had rebuilt himself as a new player, by this point just not rising to the challenge because maybe he felt that he'd done everything and he just didn't like Capello's methods of hard love with him either. So it was just like, yeah, you know what, sod this, I'll go play somewhere else. I'm just not interested. Where kind of what we see throughout David Beckham's career, he took that, as a thing of, I'm going to prove myself actually that I do still want to play and do everything I can for this club. We always hear what an incredible trainer David Beckham was and just wouldn't take this lying down, and actually trained himself back into Capello's team, which is kind of like unheard of, really.
Yeah.
You wouldn't, knowing what we know about Capello and his time with England, once he was done with you, unless you were John Terry, like he was done with you properly. So what Beckham must have been doing, like picking up all the cones, making tea for everyone, doing their washing, just being so keen to impress again.
Trust me. And it's not like he worked his way back into the team because they had nothing else really,
No.
and were like, failing. He actually played a pivotal role in Madrid winning their first La Liga title since he arrived at the club in what would be his last season. So he's done it once again. We all know Beckham as the kind of he comes back from adversity, doesn't he? I mean, even after this point, you could say there's quite a few occasions where he does it, right up until the end, really.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. I totally agree with that. And I think that's one of the defining points of David Beckham as a footballer. He would just never take the negative and just go, okay, that's just happened to me. I can't do anything about that. I've got to just take it. But actually, so many points, like with his sending off for England, he just made sure that he used that to have his greatest ever season for a club, become the England captain, went to Real Madrid, and obviously their fans will turn on anybody in a
yeah,
heartbeat, basically, and just managed to win them back. And like you say, played that role in Real Madrid, winning the only league title they ever did under like the time David Beckham was there. I mean, to change Fabio Capello's opinion as well, I think we can just kind of end the discussion there, really.
it's insane. It's insane. And he caught the eye not only of Steve McClaren, but of England fans who, during the game against Andorra, which we've already referenced multiple times now, it's such a big moment in this story. Yeah. The fans were singing Beckham's name, further showing that, there's a groundswell, isn't there? There's a
Yeah.
groundswell of opinion. Um, and that, McClaren appeases the fans. Here's what he had to say then on Beckham's sort of return for the opening game at Wembley, which would be against Brazil, as well as a crucial match, a crucial qualifying match in Estonia. So McClaren said, since Christmas, Beckham's form has been very good. I think he can help us win in Estonia, and that's why I picked him. There will be debate and opinion about it, but at the end of the day, it's my decision, and a decision I think is best for England to produce a winning team that fans can be proud of. I feel at this moment for the Estonia game, we need experience, and David certainly provides that. He's in very, very good form. The team needs that. David comes back as David Beckham, the player. That's what we want on the field, doing what we know he can do. Estonia. We need to go back in time and collect the former England captain who's had to resurrect his own career after we've like shunted him out of the squad, and we need to just bring him back for his moment against Estonia.
I think it's interesting as well, is it, in terms of the 2 points. It's pretty damning what you say that England, like this Estonia game is so big, they need to kind of break the glass and bring back their former captain to help them get over the line and play in this game and experience. But
Yeah.
also, I remember something that happened at the time was that they were like, "Oh, I get it. David Beckham's back for the opening of Wembley. Yeah, okay. I wonder why he's been brought back." When actually, I think we've kind of discussed it last time. England had a real problem with players like playing on the right. Like
Yeah,
Steven
definitely.
Gerrard just wasn't fit to play there. And not that he was bad there, but you just brought through, such a better player when he did play through the middle. Wright Phillips had been tried, Lennon a little bit. Yeah, just McClaren just couldn't settle on anybody there. When actually, this player's now in form. They're eligible. They're happy to play for England again. So it's nothing
It's
to
just
do with the
yeah.
Wembley thing, is it?
No, it's a strange one that would even have been something people would have suggested. Because really, how much does Beckham like? There's only so many tickets you can sell at Wembley. It's a friendly anyway. The coverage is going to be what the coverage is going to be. It's not
It's
going to
the
have.
opening game. It's not like they're just scrabbling around for like, oh, we may not fill it. Like I know
Yeah,
this is like a particularly bad period for England, and fans hated the team pretty much, but
everyone
you
would have gone
just
to see
some people,
Brazil v England at the
yeah,
opening of the new Wembley.
people will go, won't they, to do this? If that was today, that game would sell out 1,000,000%, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Also, in qualifying, like if you're talking commercial stuff, if Rooney or Gerrard or Lampard had pulled the finger out and smashed it all the way up into in qualifying up until this point, then they wouldn't have. That they would easily be just somebody you could put this game on the back of commercially. But a big
Yeah,
picture of Gerrard scoring, celebrating his third goal against Croatia on the poster. Job's a good one. But none of it happened. So really, he probably did give them somebody to put on a poster, but it's the England team and it's new Wembley. It wasn't needed.
yeah.
We can put that to one side, I think. What do you think about getting Brazil in to mark this moment? Brazil would also be later called upon to mark the 150th anniversary of the FA, wouldn't they? Game
Yeah,
which
that's
we've
very
covered
true,
before.
actually.
So it's any
Yeah,
any any uh any big event you need. Brazil, best value for money.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel right to me. Like, would you not think Scotland, like, really, like that's the one to do it? Maybe. I mean, maybe you'd fear that Scotland fans would come and wreck Wembley.
Maybe.
In terms of that, because it's there is history there.
Yeah.
I mean, Germany for me is the one that should have opened Wembley. They closed Wembley with a win, and with that win, made England have to close Wembley, like it was
Like a
a title
stipulation.
stipulation or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think Germany. Why aren't you doing that? Really, I know the first Germany game is going to be a good point anyway, but have it as your opening game. I don't know why they've picked Brazil.
No, it's a strange one. It's a strange one. I think people will. It's just. I don't know. Maybe it's more rare for England to play Brazil.
Hmm.
I don't know, but let's get excited about this about this
Yeah.
game somehow. I think a good way to get excitement levels up would be to look at the England side. Do you wanna read the lineup, Nick?
Yeah, this is definitely one with like, stop it now. If you listen to the podcast, stop the podcast now and just try and have a guess of who is in this England team, because there's going to be at least three positions, at least three players you're never going to get. This is like a quiz that you see on like Squawker or something, one of those things. So in goal was Paul Robinson, right back, Jamie Carragher. Centre backs were Ledley King and captain John Terry, left back, Nicky Shorey. Right wing, David Beckham. In the middle, Gerrard and Lampard. On the left, Joe Cole. Up front, Michael Owen. We'll get to him in a moment. And Alan Smith
Alan Smith.
of Manchester United, Leeds United, and I think just about now he would be near Newcastle fame as well soon.
Yeah, go on to play for Notts County, I believe.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm trying to like reverse engineer a joke about being. I was sure that he played Nicky Shorey. I was.
Right, okay.
I'm sure he played.
I'm sure he did.
That is a again. Oh my God, Carragher and Beckham. Some of the wing combinations that we've had so far in this McClaren era have been astounding. But Carragher and Beckham down the right hand side is something else.
Yeah, it's just so mad and weird. And like I say, you'd never pick that team, even if you were doing like a charity match of who was available. Of just when you get like an England legends, and they've got people like, I don't know, they've got like, you would have like, I don't know, like a Michael Owen or a Joe Cole.
Yeah,
But you
yeah.
get like players who've got like two caps, and it's
Andy
like, oh, and
Johnson.
he's filling in at right back today. Like, what are you talking about? Like, why is Bobby Zamora here?
Spunked your budget elsewhere.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
That is surprising. Yeah, King and Terry, Gerrard and Lampard back in the middle.
In the middle, we're ploughing ahead with this. It feels
Against
like
Brazil.
yeah, it feels like a charity game. It feels like a soccer aid almost with all this, and we'll kind of get to that as well now with kind of who else ends up playing and doing whatever. But yeah, a very strange team. This England team has never played with each other before. They'll never play with each other again. And it's not even like there's players properly from out of the cold here that McClaren's picking too.
Yeah. Should we talk about Michael Owen?
I think is necessary, isn't it? We got to
Yeah.
talk about Michael.
Because we've definitely spoken about him quite at length in the past, I think, but I don't know. It's just such an up and down career. I mean, we've really come to this point in McClaren's reign without mentioning him at all. And is he back now? So that's good for England. He's going to be playing more and like leading the line.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure. So can we kind of get an idea as to where Owen is at this point?
Yeah, the return of another Three Lions legend, aside from David Beckham, Michael Owen.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, really. And following the arrival of Rafa Benitez to Liverpool, Owen was sold to Real Madrid as that year's Galactico winner. He popped up there, and he impressed really when he was at Real Madrid in his kind of bit part role.
Yeah.
I remember he came on and scored in a Clasico. I think he went through I think there was like 7 games on the spin where Real Madrid had no one else up front, so they played Michael Owen, and he scored in all 7 games like consecutively.
He was one
So
of the fans didn't hate as well.
yeah, I think Real Madrid fans had a lot of goods to say about Michael Owen, but I'm pretty sure they had like Raul and a couple of other players up front that they just were not able to fit Michael Owen into playing. And I'm pretty sure that around this time as well, Jonathan Woodgate's at Real Madrid as well. And you're just
Yeah.
like, man, what was going on there at this point where it's just, who else can we find?
Thomas Gravison.
Oh, yeah, this would have been Gravison era. This may have been that. Remember Faubert? He used to play.
Oh,
He played at West Ham, and then there's one day he's just got like the Real Madrid number 10 shirt, like he's stolen it or something. It just looks so incredibly wrong. It's
it's
always like
so mad.
greatest agent ever.
Yeah, it's like that Braithwaite, isn't it, for Barcelona?
Yeah, yeah.
He
Even
was.
though it was the fact that Faubert had been not getting in the West Ham team, and then just rocks up at Real Madrid.
So is Owen still? He's not still Real Madrid, is he? By the time this sort of game against Brazil comes round, right? Or is he?
No, no. So then, just it was in 2005. He moved to Newcastle, so he would kind of get enough games to be able to go to the 2006 World Cup. Owen succumbed to a broken metatarsal in December 2005, and would take baby steps to ensure that he would be part of the travelling squad to Germany.
Mm,
Owen would injure his anterior cruciate ligament in his knee in the opening minute of England's third group game to Sweden in one of the slowest and most awkward injuries I think I've
yeah.
ever seen. It's like he's fallen asleep and he's kind of slumped off a beanbag, like just going backwards, like he's got no control over it whatsoever. It's
Yeah.
really kind of, once you know what he's doing, he's just
Yeah.
doing like a weird dance. Like once you know what he's doing, it's like, oh, that looks horrible.
There's about like six movements to it, isn't there, as well? And it just keeps going. Yeah, it's one of those where you'd see the replay and there can be no. I think, look, there it is. He may have injured himself there. It's like, oh god, oh, he's still doing it. He's still
It's
injured himself.
it's like seeing like a building fall down, and you think
Yeah,
like all the building's gone down, but then another bit keeps going and going and going. It's just like, I don't know what's the worst bit here, because we've kind of like got a still in our notes, and it's just like he's just leaning backwards, like gently, but he just absolutely just cripples
that's
himself
it.
basically.
Yeah, so that would have been around summer 2006, and the injury would keep Owen out of football until April 2007. And I can't believe this. The FA had to pay Newcastle around £7 million in damages due to the length of Owen's injury. I've never heard of that before or after.
No, it's a thing. I always remember when people go, "Oh, well, he's injured now for the club and all that," and it's just like, I've never heard the FA having to actually pay out money because a player has been injured so badly on international duty.
What
Like,
about Dean Ashton?
I was literally about to say, Dean Ashton pretty much ended his career with like an injury for England, I think it was.
Yeah,
So
I'm
it was
just
like, well,
I'm
he
just looking.
stopped playing.
Apparently West Ham tried. I'm not sure how successful they were, but they tried to get 10.5 million. Um, yeah, against the FA for Ashton's injury. Um, no, I can't see how that ended up. I guess settled out of court, eh?
Yeah, maybe, but yeah, just incredibly strange. And as the season drew to a close in 2007, Owen returned to playing for Newcastle, but he was embroiled in a row with then Newcastle chairman Freddie Shepherd over his contract. And according to the terms of his release clause, Owen was able to move to another club for around £9 million. Shepherd told Owen to show some loyalty, while also saying none of the top four clubs want him anyway. And Shepherd was also caught on video telling Liverpool fans he would carry Michael Owen back to Anfield himself, but also called Owen a good lad.
God, make your mind up. Is he a good lad? Should he show some
It's
loyalty? What is happening?
just so bipolar, that isn't it? Really, just I love him, but I can't stop punching him. Like, just what are you doing with yourself here? Like, I understand, like, he's spent a lot of his time out injured, and he's hated by Newcastle fans. I think maybe Owen had maybe he said something after leaving Newcastle about not wanting to be there, or like he would have gone, because basically he wanted to go back to Liverpool, didn't he? But Rafa Benitez wouldn't take him because he
Right.
wouldn't fit into the kind of big striker that he wanted, because he wanted to play one up front.
Yeah.
So then you think, okay, well, what's your next option? And if Newcastle are the only ones that come in for you, I think Owen probably could have done a bit more. But the games he was there, I think he's a kind of player that would always keep trying. I think when he
Mm.
gets to Stoke, maybe he's totally lost it and he is there for the payday. But at that point, Owen was still trying to play football, probably to play for England again. That's what he kind of saw his life being at that point, is get back to playing for England.
I think the problem was that he didn't want to risk himself getting injured by playing for Newcastle, and
Hmm.
therefore scuppering his England chances. Yeah, I don't think he kind of left on good terms with the Newcastle
No, not at
fans.
all. Didn't he used to like helicopter into Newcastle every single day from Liverpool?
I think that's right as well. Probably shared one with Keegan. Was
Yeah.
Keegan manager then?
Oh, Keegan did manage Michael Owen for a period at Newcastle. Yeah, he played him like behind two centre forwards from memory as well. Just Keegan desperate to get Michael Owen to play the link up place. Did the same when he was England manager, saying that he could make all the link up for Alan Shearer just over the top.
Yeah, I'm literally. Yeah, you're absolutely
Madness.
right. Again, I'm trying to find the strikers he was playing ahead of, behind. Sorry,
It
but
was
yeah,
Mark Viduka would have been one of them. And I want
yeah,
to say Obafemi Martins. That would have been around that period too,
you're
wouldn't it?
bloody good. I've just found that bit of the article. I'll tell you what, spot on.
Tell you what, that this brain gets used for one thing only, retaining useless information, probably about football.
Well, England don't really need a number 10 like that. I think
No.
Michael Owen's got competition there from at least Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard. But we are missing a striker. Um, so how's he kind of got himself back into the England squad? I'm confused by it. Is he still at Newcastle when he's back in the England squad then?
So he's still at Newcastle at this point, and Newcastle are still in the Premier League. He's got himself back to fitness just about. He comes back at the end of the season, and this is the one where you probably go, McClaren's kind of doing a last roll of the dice of Michael Owen,
Yeah,
but England have really badly missed a goal scorer to just put the chances away, create something out of nothing, really, which is what
yeah,
Michael Owen was so good at, because it wasn't like he had his lightning pace like he had in the late 90s. He was more to respectable pace. And even that was kind of on the wane now through all the injuries. It was just like, consistent international goal scorer. And again, you get the feeling that if it wasn't the opening of New Wembley, Owen probably wouldn't be playing here either.
no, probably. God, they were really going for the my childhood dollar,
Yeah.
absolute nostalgia fest there.
Just celebrities almost. It really, you go through it and you're just like, there's a lot going on here. But I think Wayne Rooney may even be injured at the time as well, because he's not in the squad. This is a friendly game too. And I think he was banned for the Estonia game. So
Yeah.
McClaren's kind of taking this semi-seriously as well, because he's going, well, who's
Ooh.
going to play up front for me in the Estonia game? So Wayne Rooney, he's not allowed to play in the bloody opening of Wembley.
I'm taking this semi-seriously by playing David Beckham and Michael Owen against Brazil in 2007
And Jamie Carragher right back and Nicky Shorey probably playing his first game.
and Alan Smith up front. I was always a Alan Smith fan. I'm trying to think, surely this is before his leg break.
I
Or
think this
maybe it's
is
not because he's not been in the squad for ages.
I think this is post leg break. So Alan Smith's back. Smith hadn't made the World Cup due to playing predominantly as a midfielder for Man United during this period, but that had come off from the back of his leg break at Anfield as well. Towards the end of the 2006-2007 season, Smith had made his comeback for Man United, helping them kind of steady the ship in the pursuit of the Premier League, and was preferred to Peter Crouch already. So I don't know what Peter Crouch has been doing, but it's not been pleasing McClaren, apart from just scoring lots of goals.
Yeah, that's great. And giving England a unique option. That's crazy. And the midfield we have is, as we say, Lampard and Gerrard in the middle, with Joe Cole on the left and Beckham on the right. I think that front six, may be the most sort of shit England front six ever, just in terms of it's almost like we're getting every single one of them at the worst, really.
Yeah, on paper, it's kind of like almost like a perfect England team. Like a lot of people would go that that would be the best England team I could possibly pick for this game. The problem is, as we've discussed, all their issues they've had previously, and at this point, it's just like he's gone. Who's available? Yeah, the best guys. Get them on the pitch, like old school manager almost.
Yeah, Christ. Shall we look at the result then? How does this sort of actually no? Let's have a quick look at Brazil. What kind of players have we got in that team? What era of Brazil is this?
We've kind of spoken about the team, but the team feels really weird. And McClaren being the manager for England for this opening game at Wembley also feels like very strange as well. And you'd imagine like the FA, which they could have like swapped out McClaren's assistant Terry Venables for the game
Yeah,
to be the manager instead, or someone like Bobby Robson as well, because McClaren being the manager for the opening game at Wembley just feels another bit of wrong.
Yeah, I know what you mean because he's such a he's almost like a placeholder, isn't he? I think
Yeah.
even the FA probably had that feeling by this point as well. It's like, oh, if we win and are we gonna put a picture of him in the first game, like anywhere prominent at Wembley in the offices?
I'd love to know, like at New Wembley, what are the photos they've used from that day?
Yeah.
Because I guess you would put Beckham on there. You're probably going to put Michael Owen, Gerrard, the rest of them, like
Would
not
it be
really. And even the manager, like the team, there's definitely going to be a picture of like Venables in the background of like, oh, we liked Venables, but like they definitely would have wished they could have just got Bobby Robson in for this.
would it be one where you'd use the pictures of yourself in close proximity to like players like Ronaldinho or
Yeah,
Kaká
yeah,
and
definitely.
just live off that? I think that is the sort of we're talking. I don't know how far in the back end of Ronaldinho we are, but we're talking like 5 years after he knocked England out of the World Cup. Kaká probably at his peak at this point.
Yeah, yeah, really coming into it and kind of usurping Ronaldinho as the world star, especially like the Brazilian star. I think around 2006, Ronaldinho had gone into the next World Cup, just hoping this is the one where he's going to really take it on and have Kaká with him as well. And they never really gelled when they were playing together for
Mm.
Brazil. And this is kind of the downward spiral of Ronaldinho not being that top level, do it all himself, best player in the world footballer, and Kaká kind of taking over that period for a brief while. It was probably 2 years. He was really seen as the
Yeah.
terrifying player that other players would, just go, I can't do anything about him. He's just bigger than me. He's quicker. He's so skillful.
Yeah, and Robinho was in there as well, who's kind of never really did hit the heights, sort of thing.
No, but
Um,
then you've got players like Danny Alves, the most decorated footballer ever, and
mhm.
Wagner Love. So they've got their own yin and yang going on for this game as well. Why couldn't they play original Ronaldo? We're playing Michael Owen,
They've also got a player just called Juan,
just one. Yeah,
just
could be anyone.
Juan, and I've just googled Juan, and I mean he's not the first thing that comes up, which is quite rare for a footballer.
What? Just the word Juan you've googled?
I know, but I feel like no matter what you put in a footballer, will always peek it out. I mean, some of the faces, Nick. It's. Let me
It's a
just.
who's not Juan.
Yeah, I got. I'm gonna share. This is that guy.
Oh well, there you go. Yeah, there he isn't.
Yeah, so enough gawping at the Brazilians then. Come on, we're England, man. How did we get on?
It's the first game at Wembley and the first senior men's goal scored at Wembley, the new Wembley, was scored from David Beckham's cross onto John Terry's head.
Let's see what you did there. John Terry, he was the first goal of the McClaren reign. God, he really does turn up for that man when he needs him most.
Yeah, apparently so. And yeah, it was
1-0
yeah, it was
England, come
John
on.
John yeah, John, it was kind of that one and then it was all going so well until Brazil scored in the 92nd minute to snatch an equalizer where Steve McClaren in the video afterwards can be saying to himself, shit.
Shit.
Shit. Didn't want that to happen. Wanted the one good thing that was going to happen, my charity day.
There was a Guardian article sort of just after the game. Headline: Beckham returns like he's never been away as England break even. The past locked arms with the present as the previous captain David Beckham flighted the free kick with which his successor John Terry headed his side in front. So yeah, maybe this is it. Maybe it's the past and the present sort of combining. That's where McLaren's gonna really take flight.
Yeah, we hope so. But before we even look at anything else, we've got to go to the biggest game that's ever happened. It's Estonia away. Get rid
Wow.
of all of your, show business. This is the game of their lives in Tallinn.
Mart Poom in goal for Estonia.
Oh,
There's
love a little bit of Mark Poom mention. I don't know why. He was a goalkeeper I just have a lot of fond memories of. Like he was a decent keeper.
definitely, yeah, yeah. So a must-win game. Just as a little bit of extra sort of background. Um, Stuart Pearce was at this time the bookies' favourite to take over. Should Steve McClaren get the sack? Do you think he would have got the sack because he's bigged this game up hard. Like, if we don't
If
win,
England if
uh,
England don't win in Estonia, I definitely think he'd have gone because the bad feeling around England was so terrible that really, is there any way back from qualification if you don't win in Estonia? And I think we said they're fourth in the group, even further away from the top two spots that would go through automatically. I do think he'd have gone because I think it was talked about so much in the press and for so long. We do the podcast and we look through all the games. It was probably from game 3 he was first seen as under pressure, and I think that was in like November of the previous year. I know, like it's months and months of people talking about this and never being convinced by him. And I think he'd have definitely gone if England hadn't won this. But I mean, what have they done? Like not looking at the process that took them so long to get through, to go to potentially Stuart Pearce, who was the bookies' favourites, and he wasn't even on the shortlist interviewed.
McClaren, he knows that the vultures are circling for him, and for his job. But at least he's got players like John Terry who'll stand by him. John Terry has said on record that he would take full responsibility if England didn't make the finals ahead of this game. What do you make of that?
That's really early fronting up, isn't it? That is far too early. Like, if anything happens, I can take it. I'm a big boy. Come on. I'll fight all of England if you're angry about it. Don't hurt Steve. Steve made me captain.
I know,
It's far too early to be doing this kind of thing, isn't it? It's just so silly.
Yeah, definitely. I've never really seen, like, that's no... Oh. And again, it goes back to the fact that we're playing Estonia.
But what's John Terry got to do with it almost either? He's not picking the team, as far as we know.
Yeah.
Like John
He can't
Terry...
take full responsibility.
I think England have only conceded the goals in Croatia so far. So the problem isn't keeping the goals out because the other teams are pretty bad and they can't score. It's England going forward. Like, I'm not really blaming John Terry that he hasn't headed in enough goals. He did it on the Brazil charity game.
Yeah. So strange. But then again, it is strange times. There always seems to be something a little bit off about an England team under McClaren. We've never really seen a straightforward sort of this is McClaren's 11. Have we?
No, we really haven't. And this time it was just something else where Wes Brown's just brought back in from the cold as well. He starts this game as well off the back of nearly scoring a comedy own goal against Brazil in that friendly. And
That'll
Wayne
do the
Bridge...
trick.
Yeah. And Wayne Bridge was in at left back as well for his first appearance under Steve McClaren. So Nicky Shorey's gone.
The
After that,
Shorey experiment is over.
Why are you not playing? Oh, I get it's a friendly, but Wayne Bridge, if you've not actually played him before for England, really, why aren't you playing him in that game to go? He's probably going to start in Estonia. Like, how bad was Nicky Shorey in that game?
Oh no, yeah. Yeah, true. I mean, and also it's against Brazil and this is against Estonia, so even if he was bad, come on.
Yeah, come on. Like, this can't be that bad, can it?
I mean, you look at the lineup: Paul Robinson, Wes Brown, Wayne Bridge, Stephen Gerrard, Ledley King, John Terry, David Beckham, Frank Lampard, Peter Crouch, Michael Owen, Joel Cole. That's in numerical order, annoyingly. But there is some element of familiarity because you see Beckham and that in there, but Beckham and Beckham and Owen in there, but they've not been in the squad for ages. So, despite it looking like a somewhat traditional Sven-ish England side, it's miles away from what we've been seeing under McClaren.
But also, Alan Smith's not playing now, and you played him against Brazil, and Peter Crouch is back in.
Yeah.
Like, surely, like Crouch and Owen, that's kind of like a dream partnership in a way, isn't it? Because you've got the guy who's going to flip the ball on for Michael Owen running onto it. Michael Owen's playing back-to-back England games as well here. This is just wild. Like, can his legs take it?
And Ledley King as well. Let's not forget.
Yeah, Ledley King, who famously just didn't train.
God damn. Right, so the Guardian's minute by minute has England down as a 4-4-2, which is good to know with all those players we've just listed.
Yep.
It also has Estonia down as a 9-0-1 formation, which is fun, but also makes me think, oh God.
England have shown no kind of like ability to break down any form of a team, literally, instead of like with 9 across the back, pretty much.
Should the Guardian be doing that, really? I'm not trying to be cheeky, but like, they shouldn't say that Estonia are playing a 9-0-1 because I'm sure that's not what they're doing.
Yeah, probably not. I think it was the guy who wrote the minute by minute. I can't quite remember who it was, but I think, they have a lot of fun over there at the minute by minutes because they've just got to pump out content when there's like nothing else going on in games as well. And
Yeah.
and you look here as well, really early on, Ledley King makes a brilliant last ditch tackle as well to keep the scores at 0-0. I mean, what would have happened if Estonia would have scored first? I mean, that would have they'd have had to just shut the new Wembley down.
Yeah, yeah. Even though this was away,
Yeah, just away. It doesn't matter. Just bring it all down, forget it.
just in the dead of night, and just creeps back. I think it would have involved John Terry and Steve McClaren sort of fighting or something. I think
They'd have had a
Terry would have gone up to McClaren and gone, "Just punch me. I deserve this.
I'm taking this for you.
I'm taking this for you and from you." So England are hanging on really to keep it at 0-0 in the early stages. Not good against a team playing with 9 defenders. David Beckham did get a bit more involved as the game sort of progressed, though. And Joe Cole would score 10 minutes before half time with a great chest control and spinning strike off keeper Mark Poom's post to put England ahead. Beckham involved, Cole scoring. This is Svenny. It's very Svenny.
Yeah, it's back to the good old days of being knocked out in quarterfinals. This is what we want, isn't it? And Beckham, you can immediately just see when you see all the highlights of these games that Beckham is involved in everything good England have done. Like, which makes you just question what have England been doing all this time without him in the team? Like every chance that England make comes from David Beckham on the right, just whipping one of his classic balls into the box. And it's like, what's going on the rest of the game here? Like, I'm not going to lie, we didn't watch this one in full. We've got a lot of the McClaren in stuff to do.
Yeah.
But it's just mad, really. And then, Beckham's involved in the second goal. It makes another deep looping cross, which bounces and lands on Crouch's head into the corner. And then Beckham notched up another assist with a similar trademark cross for Owen to run in and score his first competitive goal in a year and a half for England. Beckham, Owen, back on the sheet together. This is great.
I know, yeah, it does actually make me really happy to see the second half there. Yeah, Peter Crouch 54 minutes, Michael Owen 62 minutes, and everything seems all right in the world once again for England. And that is 3 huge points. And McClaren is entirely vindicated by bringing David Beckham back.
Yeah, totally. In those 2 games, he's the bright spark, really, isn't he? He shows he can still hack it at that level. And a bit more hope again, maybe, just because they've got that win there, and there's a big run of home games coming up now as well. So England would hope that they can get back on track with that.
Yeah. This sort of sign off from the Guardian minute by minute of the game says, with Croatia and Russia drawing and 4 of England's last 5 games to be played at Wembley, McClaren's men will be odds on again to reach Euro 2008. Whether man of the match Beckham will be there with them is a debate for another day.
Crazy, really, that they're still talking about, will David Beckham come back? Like, surely this wasn't like a one-time deal, like a short-term contract he's made, and he's going to up his rate or something. Like, it just seems really strange that there's even controversy about bringing Beckham back, even though he's done really well in 2 games with that team. It seems really odd.
He couldn't have done any more, could he?
No, pretty much no.
England aren't going to get better in the interim. The interim actually includes a friendly against Germany at New Wembley Stadium. So, what we're talking, I can't even think how many years it would have been. It wasn't that long, 6 or 7 years maybe, since Germany beat us and we had to close down Wembley. They're back, and Nicky Shaw is back in the squad as well.
Yeah, but why did they just not make this? Why did they not just make this the opening game? If it's the second game, like, this just pointless. Have Brazil as the second game. Everyone's going to come to the first. Make it Germany. Make it proper. Just stupid. And another stupid thing is the timing of this game as well. So this was everyone's favourite, wonderful England friendly that takes place literally the weekend, or even like days before the season starts again. I remember this being like the game where no one cared about England because they'd usually been knocked out of a tournament. And the entire, like, Alex Ferguson, you aren't playing that shite kind of game. Like, there's no way Ferguson ever released any of his players for this type of game. And I don't think any manager wanted to. This was definitely you're playing him for 20 minutes, but, you are at least bringing him off at half time. No one's playing 90 minutes in these games, are they?
David Beckham does, because for this game he was the first player to play for England whilst at a non-European club. So you see,
There you
Steve's
go.
thinking, he's thinking ahead. He's thinking, well, we've got a friendly 2 days before the Premier League season starts. They play things a little bit differently out there in America. And no, I don't know the details of how they do things a little bit differently. But I think Beckham was on an off season, maybe. I don't know. Either way, he was an LA Galaxy player, and England are playing Germany. I mean, I just don't know what to. We've had some good friendly teams in the McClaren era. Really, we've had the Netherlands. We've had I think France, now Brazil and Germany.
Spain, there was Spain in there as well, and
Spain.
maybe these were all booked in before McClaren kind of took over at England. But it does kind of say that like he never really picks bad friendlies at this point. If he's picking the friendlies, maybe it's just the FA desperate to be like money spinning and whatever. But like you say, Spain, Netherlands, Germany, Brazil, they're really kind of going right. Well, let's test ourselves against the best.
Yeah.
Which is something to be admired. I remember that Keegan always played a lot of his friendlies against really good teams. Like you don't see many of like the Svens of like the Australia, South Korea, Japan.
No.
Kind of that next rung to experiment with. McClaren is experimenting, but against the better sides. It's like, is that a clever thing to do?
Maybe. I think he just is trying so hard to just will a win against a big team and just everything that means. I don't know if he cares how he gets it. He would just love to say, "We've beat Brazil. That's 3 bad qualifying games in the bank that I've got that can afford me." But England clearly like playing at the new Wembley, or at least they like taking the lead at the new Wembley because they do so against Germany through Frank Lampard after just 9 minutes. How's about that?
Yep, that's it. Yes, Lampard back on. It's his first goal in 10 games as well for England, and this one past Jens Lehmann. So Jens Lehmann's still around at this point as well.
Mart Poom, Jens Lehmann. This is a great trip down goalkeeping memory lane.
I know, yeah, and also Lampard's name had been jeered in the build-up as well. So everything wasn't great before the invention of social media either. People still hated hated players and booed them for no particular reason. I think Lampard is one of the ones who really gets picked on in this era for England as well because he's doing so well for Chelsea, like embarrassingly well, and playing and scoring like every single game for them. And this was just like, why is he not doing it for us? It's like, well, he's got Makalele around him. He's not far from having Michael Ballack around him. Michael Essien's there as well. And he's just got,
Jose Mourinho's the
Gareth
manager.
Barry's here. Yeah, I know Jose Mourinho's his manager. Exactly. He's got loads of brilliant players around him and a system that works and benefits him. It's almost like England are just chucking players into a 4-4-2 that shouldn't be there.
Yeah, he'd also been, I think, England's Player of the Year for 2004 and 2005, or 2005 and 2006, and I think it just seemed like he'd fell off a cliff for England. That wasn't the only thing dropping like a stone for England because their 1-0 lead against Germany would evaporate on 26 minutes, so just about 15 minutes or so after England took the lead. It was a mad 10 seconds from Paul Robinson, not his first mad sort of moment for England that gifted Germany the equaliser. After spilling a shot to his defenders and kicking it away himself, he didn't deal with the next cross and dropped the ball at Karanyi's feet for a goal. When not dealing with Schneider's cross, he falls so deep into the goal, he's already in the bottom corner of the net by the time it lands at the German's feet. So, all over the place. Really all over the place. And, yeah, that's kind of sets the tone for the rest of it, really, because not long after that, England succumbed to defeat after just 40 minutes. An absolute screamer from Christian Pandat, putting Germany in front. England would find no response despite calling on Kieran Dyer on 57 minutes in what would be his last appearance for England.
Still so surprised every time I write down the word Kieran Dyer when I'm making these notes. It's just crazy he was still playing for England. And that's kind of, again, shows where England are, where maybe on paper there's a few good players there, but my God, there's some dross underneath that should not even be looked at anymore.
Yeah, then again, we always say we're not really analysing their Premier League form at the time. It's not like you just pick Kieran Dyer for no reason whatsoever. I'm not pinning it on you because, like, obviously that's just something we're both really guilty of. But he can't have just picked Kieran Dyer out of the blue because he was good 5 years before. He must have
Yeah.
had another good run of form around this time.
I think he's just desperate for anything, really, because he's just throwing anything at the wall that works. I mean, it was really early on. He started doing that as well, McClaren. And he is just kind of just hoping something works, like you say, willing something into existence. I mean, we've also got Paul Robinson having another howler for England. And this is the kind of the time where it's seen as, is Paul Robinson going to be good enough anymore? It's not really that long ago. I think 2004 is when he re-establishes himself as the England goalkeeper. So we come into the 2007 and he's already being questioned. I think he'd had like a poor period at Spurs around this time too. And this isn't even like a really good Germany side that are beating England either. They're missing quite a few players. And obviously with this win, they're the first team to win at New Wembley, as well as the last team to win at Old Wembley. Just perfect. I kind of can't argue with that.
No, you get what you
I'm
deserve.
happy it was Germany. I said it.
Yeah, so England did sort of, well, not sort of, they completely fell. Nicky Shorey would also have his last cap in that game.
He lasted a while, didn't he?
The final line on the Guardian's match report is, McClaren will be relieved that the jeering at full time was not as prolonged or as caustic as it might have been.
They were booing the shit out of you, but it could have been worse.
Exactly. Yeah, that's just a typical. We haven't watched that game. I don't know if anyone could tell from the shoddy sort of run through there, but I honestly don't think you could pay me, because imagine just how bad they are at this point. Like, you just know what it's gonna be. It's gonna be the most like turgid, like you know how you mentioned in the last game when last pod, sorry, when they were talking about replaying a shoulder barge on the halfway line because there was nothing to talk about. It's just going to be that, isn't it? All the goals are going to be lucky from sort of Beckham set pieces that have bobbled around and shit. And
he's only just come back into the team, and already he's the number one like outlet for scoring a goal is David Beckham again. Like,
he's playing in the MLS.
But we've not gone back. We've not gone forward at all, have we? We've not gone forward. This is just back to what it was. Beckham will get us out of the shit. And I get that they'd have been depleted around this game of dropouts. It's a friendly. It's Germany at home and all that. But England just don't make anything easy for themselves, do they, under McClaren? They rarely score early. They go into half-time 0-0 seemingly every single game, apart from when they lose. Steve's playing like so many different players who are in for like 2 games, then we never see them again. He's calling up players well into their international wilderness years as well. And then they're banished again and then back in from the wilderness because of their wilderness years are behind them. He can't seem to make up his mind on any players apart from Terry and Ferdinand. They're pretty much the only players, and probably Ashley Cole, even though I don't know what the hell's happened to him at this point.
Ferdinand as well. I mean, we've seen Carragher there. We've seen Neville at centre-back. We've seen
Ledley King was just playing.
Yeah. Maybe just Terry then.
I think it's that dropout section of just, again, Ferguson was never going to let players play here. He'd do a few of them and then you're off. And this is still the era of like shitloads of changes at half time.
Yeah, we're angry. We're angry now, of course, because we've just lost to Germany. But let's not forget that way it really matters in qualifying. Last time out, we'd beat Estonia 3-0 with goals from Peter Crouch and Michael Owen, and Joe Cole.
Yeah.
But more importantly, Peter Crouch and Michael Owen. So back to qualifying. It's going to have to happen at some point, and we can't really afford to drop any more points. And we've got 3 home games in succession. We've had our bedding in period for the new Wembley. It's now or never, really. Steve's really got to do it.
Yep, he's really got to do it. And first up was Israel. And McClaren's urge to play yet another nostalgia player was too much again when he called up Emil Heskey.
Christ almighty.
Heskey is back in the side as well. Emil William Ivanhoe Heskey made his first appearance for England since the Euro 2004 opener against France 3 years earlier.
God damn. Since because he would have been dropped for Rooney, wouldn't he?
Right? Yeah, he'd have been there as well. And I think this is definitely a thing of Michael Owen's back fit. He's got to be the answer here, really, into the striking problems, because he doesn't like, the list of strikers we've listed previously. So maybe this is what we need to get Owen and Heskey back in as well. And it's just like he's scrabbling around for other people's old homework now, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of World Cup 2002 remnants in that team there. Oh my god.
And as well, Heskey, you know, he was never a prolific goal scorer, which is absolutely fine. He was never that kind of player. But at this point, he's at Wigan Athletic, scoring 8 goals in 36 appearances the previous season. So that relationship, he's desperate for it to just get back and kind of bludgeon their way through these games, maybe. But, you know, for these last tricky home games, you know, Israel had amazingly not lost an away qualifier since October 2003.
That's not
Like,
what you need.
what's this fucking era of these, like, minnow international sides just being incredible, like in this specific circumstances, like they've never lost on a Tuesday or something.
And all being in England's group as well. All these ones with the records.
Yeah.
David Beckham didn't make it. He didn't make it. He's back
Yeah.
out of the squad.
Yeah, he's back out of the squad. I think he's injured at this point. So I
Yeah.
don't think it's a thing of like, oh, you know, Beckham's now shit. I think it's a thing of actually, I think he was injured around this time. So instead, it's Sean Wright-Phillips who comes in and actually, you know, scores from a Joe Cole cross, which is great to get him back on track and starting as well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Beckham was actually injured around this time, so all of his good work kind of undone at this point. But it does open the door for Sean Wright-Phillips, who scores from a Joe Cole cross, and Michael Owen scores a nearly identical goal to Joe Cole's against Estonia, a swiveling volley from outside the box. Brilliant. England are kind of like, you know,
Yeah.
doing what they should have been doing all along, really, with these players and putting
That's
the
what I was-
teams away.
That's what I was going to say. Also, Sean Wright-Phillips should have been one of the players. I always say it should have been either him or Aaron Lennon on the right, you know, to replace Beckham for the pace, just to give it a different dimension. And now he's there.
They tried, didn't they? But I think there was just something that never worked. And I don't know if it's because England had a lot of... It's quite weird when you look at these games and how many home games England have got left. So if you had a couple of more games at home, you've got, you know, the bigger pitch, you've got the incentive to go and attack a team as well, instead of these early cagey qualification games where a team is just going to, you know, be at home, happy with the point, get out of there and all that. But at home, you just think they're going to win. It's going to be better if they play all these games at home early. They've probably got all the points wrapped up. Sean Wright-Phillips is probably, or Aaron Lennon, they're both probably playing a lot. They're probably scoring as well. It's having all those harder games away from home make them harder early on.
Yeah, that's true. Michael Owen's gone from outside the box as well. Who would have thought it? The game was rounded off by Micah Richards scoring his first and only England goal. It was 6 appearances in to his Three Lions career, and it did seem like Micah Richards had kind of nailed that right back spot down. Gary Neville was kind of out of the picture. And Micah Richards is there banging in goals at Wembley with a big smile on his face. McClaren,
As if he wasn't going to be smiling.
McClaren somehow feels like he's settled on a something of a settled team because he brings Gareth Barry in as well. You know what? All he needed was to take World Cup 2002 and just tweak it just a little bit,
Just that bit.
and you two can beat Israel at home. This game also saw the final cap for Andy Johnson. He's been involved. He's been a player in this Odyssey, and I for one am sad to see him go.
Yeah, one of the heroes of the Odyssey that we're going along now, isn't it? You know, first cap for, you know, as well as his first and last cap for the new David Beckham hybrid. We hardly knew ye, Andy Johnson. He's going to be burnt outside now. I think that experiment just didn't work, did it?
Well, yeah, he has the exact same face as David Beckham, as we've said before, Andy Johnson. But we also have somebody who has the exact same initials as David Beckham getting their first cap for England. David Bentley. What is going on?
Seen as the new David Beckham, not just because of those initials, but him being a flash kind of right-footed right winger player as well.
Yeah,
He wasn't very quick, but had a good cross on him.
yeah. He always kind of sticks in my mind, Bentley, as a bit of a volatile character, a bit of a flash guy. But the fans seem to agree with me, the England fans, because he was booed onto the pitch. This was due to his late withdrawal from England's under-21 Euro Championship squad in the summer. He was a bit tired, a bit fatigued, and decided he wasn't gonna be part of that. That's a bit of a thing from the past, isn't it? I don't know if that happens at all anymore, and if it did, nobody would care. Surely.
No, I don't think so. I mean, really, booing a player because they've withdrawn for an England under-21s Euro Championship squad due to
Yeah.
them kind of being tired. I mean, as if anyone gives a shit about the England under-21 teams anymore, especially if like anyone's even paying attention to it. The idea that actually it was such an important thing. So I remember when it was a bit more freely available. I don't even know what it's on. I'm assuming it's on Sky these days. But I remember watching, like, maybe because I was just younger and I had like a lot more free time. I'd watch some of the under-21 games and
Yeah.
just and kind of just see what was happening there and what players are coming through. And I think we've said before, it's so rare a player will play so much for the 21s and then go on to have a really good England career.
Yeah.
So today, I just think people just don't care. No one could tell us who the England and 21s or 18s managers are. So it's just like fucking doesn't matter. Like it's really weird with like youth football. I always think as well. You always hear about people in the under 21s. You never hear about anybody in the under 20s team.
No. Did they have one?
So there's an under 20s England team, and then there's an under 19s and an 18s and a 17s. But to me, the under 20s team is like where all the players go who aren't good enough for the 21s.
Yeah, because they're still
So they're
under
still
21.
kind of playing youth football and they're in the system and all that. And I just think it's so strange. And like I say, nobody cares about that these days. But it was a big thing to the point where England fans are booing a guy on his debut because of what he's done in the summer, because he was fatigued and wanted a rest. Like, who cares?
Oh, God. Well, it's no way to set yourselves up for a massive home qualifier against Russia just 4 days later. But despite that, England managed to, put them to the sword with relative ease. 2 goals from Michael Owen and
That's
one
what
from
we like
Rio
to see.
Ferdinand as well. It's 2002 all over again.
Where's Nicky
Amazing.
Butt? Get him back in here as well.
Russia were actually above us as well in qualifying when we went into this game. So a big win with relative ease, right?
Yeah, pretty much. England scored really early on. Michael Owen 7 minutes in with a cool finish into the corner and kind of have England scored too early we can all be proud of and just sit back and enjoy, because it was seen as another massive game for where England had got themselves into. And Owen had added to his tally with a great volley from just inside the area on 31 minutes, walking onto a nod on from Emil Heskey and kind of strolling it into the net. I don't think I've genuinely ever seen Michael Owen in so much space on the pitch than when he receives the ball for the goal. It is crazy. And I include when like Michael Owen's running through on goal, like back in his youth.
Well,
He is in
walking and
so
strolling.
much space.
Your description of that goal, walking onto a nod on and strolling into net, makes me think of Father Ted football, like that sort of speed.
Yeah, pretty much. It's just exactly what it's like. A really good goal on slow motion, that one is. And it's a really, really strange period for Michael Owen, easily past his peak at this point, but still knowing where the goal is for his country at international level. These last couple of appearances, you do see you're like, right, Michael Owen, he's not quite what he was, but this is what England have been missing for all this time. And even now, I remember when this was happening, it seemed that he was so close to becoming England's all-time top scorer, and it was just inevitable it was going to happen. Right, Michael Owen's back. He's going to get the goals that's needed, but amazingly, this would be his final goal for England.
Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting that he didn't do that. And I'm not blaming him. I'm just sad.
Yeah, because it seemed like so nailed on for so long when it was kind of him and Beckham going through like all the qualifiers and all that kind of stuff. And you just think it was inevitable, wasn't it? And then all of a sudden it's just kind of
Not happy.
taken away.
Yeah. Yeah. Rio Ferdinand, as I say, got the other goal in that game. That must have been his last England goal as well.
Yeah, didn't score many, did he?
No. And then we're on to... so after what was certainly Michael Owen's last ever England goal, and we think Rio Ferdinand's last ever England goal, we move on to England's last home game on this run. It's against Estonia. And despite all the players McClaren had used up to this point, we didn't see centre-back becoming a problem. However, it quickly had become one, which means... Does it mean that Sol Campbell finds a way back into the squad?
Sol Campbell, someone's left the door open and Sol Campbell has walked through it,
Yeah.
haven't they? Sol Campbell has walked through it and Sol Campbell has walked through it, haven't they? Just
Oh my
fucking hell.
God.
How many players is he getting through here? Like, I think he's been the England manager for like a year and a bit. And I just can't remember like this revolving door of just fucking
No.
insane people that keep coming back into the England team. So Sol Campbell at this point was at Portsmouth following his breakdown at Arsenal, having left Highbury at half time during a defeat to West Ham and wouldn't appear for the club for another 2 months. So he's gone through that. He leaves Arsenal and he arrives at Portsmouth by this point. And he's doing very well at Portsmouth. You know, don't take that away from him. And he does well throughout his time there as well. But it's just like, God, are we back to this? This is the 2002 World Cup again. This isn't like the nostalgia era even of like the 2004 Euros or Sven. We're going right back to the start of Sven now. Like still in, like he was playing under McClaren, not McClaren, under Hoddle.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Oh my Gideon. Yeah. Wayne Rooney's back though as well.
Yeah.
Come on, that's good. He has been so absent, like from this whole McClaren era, and you got to think that weighs against Steve.
Yeah, not being able to get the best out of Wayne Rooney. And yeah, we would go on these long streaks with not playing well for England, which I think is what a lot of fans kind of hold against him for his time at England. And even though kind of when we've talked about him, he's there for the qualifiers and he's there every week putting them away. But this is kind of like almost like growing pains for England, like so much expected from him and always turning up for Man United and playing well and influencing games. But it was just seen as like England have clearly got good players around this time, but they're all playing miles better for their club than their country. Probably because they are just individuals and superstars and they've got their own ideas of what they should be doing. And it seems the only like thing that Wayne Rooney's done in this qualification so far is just get really pissed off at everybody and kind of kick people and get banned. And yeah, just not a good time for him.
Yeah. He hadn't played for England since the March, missing 5 England games over that period. But he did get a goal on his return. Bit of a relief there because England really did need that goal. Sean Wright-Phillips would also score the opener in their game, so Rooney would have made it 2-0 before an own goal from Tavi Ran on 34 minutes, put it at 3-0. I'll tell you what, all these last few games, there's been a good few 3-0s, hasn't there?
Yeah, I think
maybe
like,
2.
Yeah, I think this is the period where it's just like, right, maybe everything is going to be fine because that Russia game was so massive for England, getting back into those good qualifying positions as well. And like you say, he's actually keeping a steady team every game as well now. Like he's found Gareth Barry, like he's playing him every single game. I don't know why he's not playing Michael Carrick, but it's kind of like, just wait, it's working. Don't worry about it. And then like he's not having to play Frank Lampard. I think he's maybe just fully dropped him. And he's just saying you can't be part of the team anymore. He's still kind of rotating the strikers, but at least it's like back to Rooney and Owen. I mean, Heskey, it seems like he's just gone again. So who needs more Heskey after he's just helped us out?
Yeah.
But yeah, and they seem to have calmed down now. Right, okay, everything's going to be fine. It's qualifying. We're doing this again, back on the front foot. And even having time to bring in players like Julian Lescott for their first appearance and making Phil Neville no longer an England player, his last appearance for England.
And his last appearance for England, despite Ashley Cole being stretchered off and leaving England with a bit of an injury headache on that left-hand side. So one can only imagine who might be brought in for England's next game.
It's a fucking tombola at this point, isn't it? Like we must have had 5 different players in this period start at left back for England.
Yeah. You know what's bad? I actually thought you meant it's Tom Bowler, like Bowler when you said it. I know that sounds made up, but it's the God's honest truth. It could
Who
have
the
been.
hell's Tom Bowler? Is he playing at left back as well now?
Well, we're going to have to sort of leave the uncertainty. Well, we're going to have to take the uncertainty with us.
Yeah.
We don't know what's coming up next for England, and neither does the listener, because nobody remembers all of this shit. But there's still...
It's probably worth just saying, actually, at this point, England have got 2 games left to get through to the Euros, and they've been milling around full spot for quite a while here. But as we speak, that win against Russia was massive because going into the last 2 games, Croatia are on 26 points, England are now second on 23 points, and Russia, with a game in hand over England, are on 18 points, and Israel aren't out of this either at this point either. They are on the same games of England, 17 points. It may seem like a far away, but England's next two games are probably their two hardest games of qualifying as well. Next time, it's England away in Russia and at home to Croatia.
Join us there. We're taking it down to the wire as the Steve McClaren Odyssey enters its 5th chapter.
Fourth.
As the Steve McClaren Odyssey enters its 4th chapter. Join us then.
You may be a stranger, that's what time can do. Baby, you mean everything to me. Darling, there's no danger.